The moment I ignored my manager showing up late every single day, I single-handedly destroyed my team culture. I thought I was being understanding. I thought I was being supportive. I thought I was being a good leader. I was wrong. Former England football manager Sir Gareth Southgate calls these cultural creeps. The small compromises that silently poison your team. Welcome to episode 7 of Amit's Leadership Compass. In this episode, I'm breaking down Sir Gareth Southgate's conversation on, yes, you've guessed it, the High Performance Podcast with Jake Humphrey and Professor Damien Hughes. This isn't just about football. It's about the leadership lessons I wish I'd learnt before I made my biggest mistakes. Raw insights about culture, accountability, and the uncomfortable conversations that can define great teams. So let's dive in. During my early years, I had a manager who showed up at 9 o'clock every day, right before we opened. Never before. His excuse, the commute. But he knew the distance when he took the job. But I failed to address it. I wanted to be understanding, flexible, the good guy. I told myself it's just 15 minutes, so what's the big deal? But within weeks, the entire team started arriving just before opening. We were never prepared for my first patient. The environment became reactive rather than proactive. Morale dropped, standards slipped everywhere. And that one compromise on punctuality became permission for lowered standards across the board. Eventually, I sat him down. My palms were sweating. I was scared. I still remember it 12, 13 years ago. I was scared because I knew I waited too long, but I had to have the conversation. And that's exactly what I did. Kept it short and sweet. I really need you here at 8:45 ready to go. The commute was always part of your job, so what's your plan to make that happen? I was really uncomfortable, but it was really unnecessary. Why? Because that period was the most unhappiest culture I've had of any business I've led. And it started with just one small thing I ignored. So Gav calls these cultural creeps the small things that you tolerate early on, thinking you're being flexible, but they compound. So here's the truth. Those small moments aren't small, they're defining. They signal what you actually value versus what you say you value. And the best leaders address the creep immediately with clarity and respect. The second key takeaway I'd say is about the importance of speaking last and listening first. As I say, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So Gareth's technique, speak last in meetings. Once you shared your view, you've influenced the narrative. People become less willing to challenge you or offer alternatives. And that's what I used to do early on in my career. I thought leadership was about walking into meetings and having all the answers to solve all the problems. I'd share my thinking right at the start, at the onset, thinking I was being helpful. But what I didn't realize at the time was how much insight I was missing, because people would nod, they'd agree, would move forward but with just my perspective, not the collective intelligence of the team. Because when you speak first, you close a possibility you don't even know existed. As a leader, our role isn't about having all the answers. It's about gathering the best information to make the best decision. The best leaders shape the question, not the answers. The next key takeaway is about vulnerability and it being a strength. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. Remember the acronym I've said many times before: fail, first attempt, initial learning. So Gareth's approach was, don't criticize the mistake, focus on the response. So what do we learn? What will we do differently? Showing you're human doesn't diminish authority. It creates permission for others to be authentic and take risks. What I love about his leadership style is the balance. Hard lines on culture and standards, but also vulnerability and empathy. That's the tension us leaders live in. High standards while acknowledging we're all human and we're learning. And one more thing about high pressure moments. Keep communication short, concise, because when stakes are highest, people need clarity, not complexity. Clarity under pressure is a leadership superpower. And I think that's something that Sir Gareth did brilliantly. Remember, before he came into the England football team, there was a history of missing many penalty shootouts. And Sir Gareth realised that. So he played a big part in changing the mindset, the mentality, and the conversations during those key moments. So right before the penalty shootout, he kept it simple. You've practiced this, just do what you've done on the training pitch and you'll get it right. The final key takeaway I'd say is about surrounding yourself with people who fill your gaps. So success always requires honest assessment of where you are versus where you need to be. Not negativity, just the truth. And Sir Gareth surrounds himself with people who have the skills that he doesn't. Because leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room. I've said this many times before. It's about assembling the right team around you. Seek the truth over comfort. Build teams with complementary skills, not people who just agree with you. In my business, I've been fortunate enough now that I've built a leadership team where each person's strength covers another's gap. That's what makes us stronger than I could ever be alone. And I genuinely believe that leadership setup has allowed me to grow my portfolio of practices within the HIC. So I see that as a competitive advantage for Lynn and I, as I see it as an asset of us as a great team. Now, here's my question for you. What's the one thing you're tolerating right now because you're afraid of seeming not nice? Remember, that's where the creep starts. So drop it in the comments. I'll respond to every single one. I hope you found value in this episode. If you have, please hit subscribe, give this a like, and share it with someone navigating their own leadership challenges. The full conversation with Sir Gareth Southgate is exceptional. And as always, I'll drop the link to the High Performance Podcast episode in the description. Until the next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep navigating your leadership compass.